me. Alright, you guys are feeling very nice and warm. Is it possible to get the house lights, are they off properly? I think it's just the lamps and stuff. That's alright, you feeling pretty good and warm? Does it look good up here? Does it look nice? Yeah, great. You guys are nice. I can see your smiles, that's all I need to see. But I need to make some noise and we can welcome up your act for the night. So make some noise. I love this performer, one of my favourites, makes me laugh harder than anyone out of Hobart Comedy, I think. So make her feel very welcome to the mantelpiece. And bring her up, please, Chloe Allison Escott.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. This is a really, really nice space, and I'm so glad to be doing this. Thanks heaps, Rob, for how far away should the microphone be?
I reckon about there.
About there. Okay, I can manage that. So yeah, thanks Rob, thanks to the Alabama Hotel, not the Hotel Alabama. No, it's not a song, it's just like a place. I haven't, it's been a long time since I've done like a full sort of stand-up show like this, and I kind of want to ease into it a bit. So like, I'm just getting like, this isn't like, I'm trying to, the show that I'm doing tonight, I'm hoping to take it to like festivals, like take it touring to the comedy festival next year. But this is my first time trying it, and I want to like ease into it a little bit. So I want to tell like a short story first, like thing that just happened a couple of weeks ago, just to kind of like ease into, you know, doing this, talking on stage and all that. I was just in Melbourne, just like you know, just there like right before the outbreak there, right before the lockdown there. I left, I got on the Sky Bus, the bus to the airport, and just like got on, did my usual thing, just like get on the bus, sit down, put the headphones in, start like looking out the window at a certain angle with like a certain expression in my face, like I'm the main character of the bus to the airport. And someone catches my eye, like I turn, and directly opposite me, facing the back of the bus, is, I can confidently say, the most stunningly beautiful woman I have ever seen on a bus to the airport. just incongruously so. Like I couldn't see almost any of her face because she had like the face mask on, as I did, everyone did. But like her hair and her glasses and her outfit and even her luggage was like very stylish, and I was like quite astounded. And she was doing the same thing that I was doing, just really competing for main character of the bus with me. And she didn't even have headphones on. She was doing this without music. So like I could tell that she was winning. And you know, like I have a little, you know, just a private laugh about this to myself. It's like how silly this is. You know, there isn't really in real life like a main character of the bus. It's just like, yeah, it's just a feeling. It's just like a, you know, emotionally heightened kind of moment, watching the city go by on your way home after a really nice time. All of that. So just like put my headphones on, look out the window, just like ignoring it, whatever, just like having a nice time. And then I hear, excuse me. And it's the person sitting behind me who says to me, I'm really sorry, but is it okay if we switch seats? And I say, oh, sure, I don't know why, but okay. And I look down and she is holding a professional grade video camera. And there's a guy across the aisle from her carrying like a lot of like movie equipment. And and I realise that the woman opposite me is literally the main character of the bus to the airport, and I am in her way. And so I was like, oh, sure. And like, we switched seats, and like sort of has like a little quiet word for me saying, it's like we're trying to shoot a scene for this film, and like we don't want to draw too much attention to ourselves, but like, you know, we're just doing this, like, you know, thanks for understanding. And I was like, sure, no problem. And I tried to settle back into just my normal, just like listening to music, looking out the window kind of time. But the problem is, I am directly opposite the star of this film, and I'm doing exactly what she's doing, and now I'm really concerned that I'm going to be like distracting her by just like doing this weird kind of impression of her while she's trying to act. Yeah. And I try, I'm still trying to like put it into my mind, just like, you know, just blend into the background as much as I can, which is hard for me. I'm not built for that. And you know, they film for a few minutes, just like looks out the window, like gets out her phone and like reacts to it a little bit, and then like the person in front of me stops filming. It seems like they're all done. But then what happens is the camera person and the star, they switch seats, because I guess this wasn't like the shot, like I guess they just figured out it wasn't working. They're just like, okay, we're actually going to film this the other way. And now I'm in the film. And now I really can't be doing exactly what she's doing, because that's going to be really distracting. And also, like, I have to be just really, really careful not to look at the camera now as well. Like, the most distracting thing possible for a film is like one person who's just imitating the main character, but also kind of going like, yeah, it was such a strange experience, and I think really what was frustrating most of all is that like I know how this sounds, but what was frustrating me is that they didn't know who I was at all. Like they're making a thing, they're shooting a film, and like they're shooting it right in front of me, and I didn't have a chance to say like, you know, to be like artist to artist with them. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, no, like I totally support what you're doing, you know, like I'm in the business myself. Yeah, because there's no like non-embarrassing way to just like drop that in there. In that kind of situation, it's like, what am I going to say? It's like, oh, you know, like it's cool. Like obviously you're making art there, you're doing performance. I understand. Like I've been there. You know, I was the Raw Comedy National Finalist 2010. Don't look it up. Okay, now to start the show. Hello, everybody. How are we all doing?
Right.
Yeah, Hannah filling in a bit there. No. I don't know, so like, I figured I should start with just like explaining a little bit about myself. I have actually never walked on another person sexually. It's true, I've never tried it. Like, people just assume with me. like, you know, friends just come up to me all the time, just like, hey Chloe, I've started seeing someone new and they've expressed a bit of an interest in, you know, me like walking upon them sexually. Do you have any advice? And it's like, what gives you the impression that this is my area of expertise? I don't know what it is. Is it just like my confidence? Is it just the way that I carry myself? Is it like the kind of way that I will often like bring the idea of walking along somebody sexually into group conversations that weren't already heading that way? You know, like for example, you know, like a little while ago, I was just like talking with some friends. We were talking about clothes, we were talking about shoes a little bit, and one of my friends asked me, you know, do you have any heels? Like, have you ever worn heels? And I thought about how to answer this, and I said, well, like I have some shoes with a kind of elevated heel, but the heel is kind of low enough and blocky enough that I feel like if I were to use that to, you know, walk the full length of someone sexually, it wouldn't hurt them as much as they might like. Stilettos was the word I was looking for. I don't own any stilettos. I'd forgotten that word. I'm a very fast walker is the trouble, actually. Like when Google Maps says that something is like a 20-minute walk away, I'm usually there in 12. That's my main impediment to that kind of action, personally. It's like I have a hard enough time even just like slowing the pace of my walk when I'm walking alongside a friend chastely. You know, yeah, like if I was in that kind of position where someone just like lying on the bedroom floor looking up expectantly at me, just like waiting for me to traverse them lengthways sexually, I expect what would happen is that I would take a couple of steps and zone out, and then next thing I know, I'd just be at the shops. Okay, what else is relatable? You know when you're like you're putting a load of washing on, and like you realize as you're putting it on that the clothes that you're wearing at that point need to go in the wash, and so you like fully undress in front of the washing machine, and then all of a sudden it's just like this quite charged, vulnerable moment where you're just like standing completely naked in front of your own washing machine, just like I'm like, here I am. I'm naked and I need you to do something for me. That joke is such a tightrope walk for me to do, by the way, because like it's a real non-zero chance for me that like instead of saying the word washing machine, I'm gonna say the word dishwasher. Which changes the meaning of the joke quite a lot. Like all of a sudden it's not really a joke about like this, you know, quiet moment of domestic absurdity anymore. It really is just fully a joke about wanting to fuck a dishwasher. And for any of you who might be thinking, just like, how would you even fuck a dishwasher? I don't really understand. There just doesn't seem to be anything to insert into anything else. Well, like, if that's what you're thinking, I feel sorry for you. Because even in the ridiculous imaginary realm of this joke, you're still so constrained by the heteronormative paradigm. I have this friend Tom, who I've known for a long time. We sort of first knew each other through music. Like he was in a band, I was in a band. We like know each other through that, and mutual admirers of each other's work and each other's music, to the point where quite a few years ago, his band was about to go on a national tour, and what he did was he painted my name in he got a plain red t-shirt. He painted my name in big white capital letters on his shirt, and then he wore that shirt I think every night of this tour, just to get people interested in me and my work, and get people just look it up, buy my albums, whatever. It's one of the coolest things that anyone's ever done to support me as an artist. And a bit over a year later, I started gender transition and changed my name, and now he can never wear that shirt again. Can you imagine how mad people would get at him if he wore that shirt now? I ruined his shirt. I don't know if anyone here has ever just irreparably ruined a shirt, but I would expect that if you have, you've probably done it by just spilling some pasta sauce on it or something. I ruined my friend's shirt with a self-affirming life decision. But yeah, as you might have picked up from that story, we're talking about changing my name and all that. I am already at the elephant/room related part of the show. I've deviated quite visibly and significantly from normal people stuff with my whole personality, and this show is my way of holding myself accountable for that. So I was a very confusing person to know for a very long time, and I know this about myself because there were a lot of instances for a long time of people trying to figure out what was up, because they just they knew something was a bit off about me. They just couldn't identify what it was. This is the years before I transitioned, we were just not quite sure what was going on with me as a person. A typical conversation would be I would go to a party, and the person hosting the party would say hey, it's great to see you, can I get you a beer? And I'd say, no thank you, I don't drink. And they would say, oh, of course, because of the whole Christian thing. And I would say, I'm not a Christian. And I'd say, oh, so you're abstaining from sex until marriage, but you're not a Christian? And I said, no, I'm not at all. I have sex, it's all good, it's all fine. And I say so you're some kind of sex Christian? No, I'm not. I just don't drink. I just don't feel not interested in trying alcohol. And they said oh, okay, so you're just stoned. No, I don't take any drugs at all. I don't even drink coffee. I just. And they say, oh, okay, so you're a total health nut. That's your whole deal. And I would say not really. I don't drink, but I also eat a Snickers bar and a bag of candy snakes every day. And they say, oh, okay, so you're 10 years old. And after years and years and years of just so many encounters with people like this, I figured out my whole deal, and I came out and I said I'm trans, my name's Chloe now, it's all good. And It's kind of felt like people just kind of, just like that moment after the pub quiz when everyone's talking about the one answer that nobody got. It's like, what did you put down for question 7? Did you put down for question 7? Trans. No, I thought I was sex Christian. Yeah, that's what I did. Transitioned, changed my name, changed all my clothes. I started getting different haircuts. Started taking pills every day that made me devastatingly hot and also cry more. I loved like calling myself hot, especially like on stage, because that's a polarizing opinion. A lot of strongly agrees and a lot of strongly disagrees on that one, which is fine. There's worse things in life than never again having anyone rate me a 7. Not to go into too much detail about myself physically, but I have the kind of body that fairly recently in history you would only have been able to see in paintings and sculptures of your more extravagant Satans. This is the body that I have, and I mostly use it to walk around and do tasks. Lost my spot, what am I doing? Taking a drink of water at this point is what one does if one is a professional. Yeah, even just calling myself a woman at all, even that's quite exciting, because that again is a lot of strongly agrees and a lot of strongly disagrees on that basic fact about myself. And that's fine. You can argue with me about that if you want. I just say my name's Chloe, I'm a woman, I'm a trans woman, but I'm a woman. And you can say, no, you're not. And I say, yeah, I am, and I'm right, so I win. And if you want to go a second round on it, you can also say, come on, your hands are enormous, your voice is very deep, and you have to shave your face every day. To which I would say, yeah, I know, and I still win, which is strange. Shout out to any cis women, by the way, for whom all of those things are true. If you want to hang out after the show, we can high five with our enormous hands and then go sing Personal Jesus at karaoke. But yeah, I don't want to get stuck talking about transphobia too much in this show. That's not what this show is about. Go on talking about TERFs, the shit show that all is, trans exclusionary subset of feminism. Just I don't want to go on about that all the time. I used to love talking about TERFs because I just always felt my whole life, I just always felt compelled to share esoteric trivia, even when it personally harms me. And that's the whole thing with TERFs, because a lot of people used to not know about it, and I would go into a lot of detail about that whole movement, and I had to stop eventually, or at least be a lot more careful about it, because I realized I was actually making it harder for people in my life to be trans allies, because I was just they would say things to me and like, oh God, Chloe, it must suck. Like, having all these conservative Christians give you shit all the time. And I would pipe up with, actually, there's a whole other movement that disapproves of the way that I live, and they're cooler and smarter and more left-wing than you'd expect. Check them out. I just want you to have all of the information that you can have. Because there's an ideological war going on, and you need to decide between every English feminist author and comedian whose work you've ever enjoyed, or me, your friend who's always late for stuff. But yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I haven't copped a lot of shit from almost anybody ever. Like, I copped like one bit of transphobic abuse in public once, and like, I don't even know if I really count that, because like, I kind of asked for it. Like, I kind of almost literally asked for it. It was that, that preacher who used to set up at like the north end of Elizabeth Mall, remember that guy? And this was like about a year after I had come out. I was just like, really settling into myself, and I saw him doing his thing, and I thought that I would go up and have a word with him, because it was at that point the best idea that I'd ever had on how to meet other queer people in Hobart. But the reason that I felt really compelled to as well was that, like, I walked up there and I got closer. I think it must have been like fairly early on when he was doing his thing, because like a lot of people were arguing with him, were talking back at him while he was doing his whole like homophobic, like, standing up on his box doing his thing, and like people were just like, coming back at him about it. And what annoyed me was that it was all straight people who were arguing with him on biblical grounds. They were like trying to trip him up. I'm like, but doesn't the Bible also say that? And it's like, what? Like, that doesn't matter to him. He just hates us. Don't try and argue with it on his terms. So like, I really wanted to just like see what he would say to an actual queer person, an actual trans person, like, in that public space. I wanted to see what would happen. And the thing is, at that point, I was like, I hadn't really figured out how I wanted to look at that point and how I wanted to dress. So like, I was looking like a bit more androgyne than I do these days. Just like cute little t-shirt and some jeans. And so like, it wouldn't have been immediately obvious to a lot of people what I was going for gender-wise. And the reason that I know this is that when I first approached him, he was just like real normal and polite and civil towards me as I just like started a conversation with him. And then like, as soon as I mentioned that I was a trans woman, he started saying sir like every fifth word. It was so embarrassing. Like, he was saying sir so many times, it was like he was doing one of those tongue twisters from Fox and Socks. He said sir to me so many times I thought he was about to congratulate me on having won the internet. Also, like, I've had a pretty easy time of it relatively online as well. The one time that I like copped that kind of abuse online as well, I tweeted something that I thought was just like a fairly benign take on something or other. It got retweeted a lot, it got spread around quite a bit. It came to the attention of someone who didn't like the look of it. He replied to the tweet, and you know what he called me? He called me, you gays. As in, you gays are always, and you know what I did? I deleted my own tweet, because I just knew that it actually wasn't strong enough to withstand that kind of criticism. Yeah, I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of in two minds about the show that I'm doing tonight, by the way. Like, I don't know if I want to do like a whole trans comedy show kind of thing, and like educate everybody and like debunk myths and explain everything with like increasingly weird, strange analogies. It's like, oh, the effect of hormone replacement therapy on my face starting at age 31 is like when a director gets fired from a film partway through production and the replacement director wants to put her own personal touch on it even though 90% of the film has already been shot. Or it's like trans women are just like the internet in that back in the 80s it was a very specific kind of guy who was into us, and nowadays it's just kind of everybody. I put some kind of little bit of ironic distance on that joke, but it's actually my favorite joke of the whole show. It's all downhill from here. What I actually want to do tonight is I want to tell some stories. And all of these stories take place between 2009, when I started doing stand-up comedy around Hobart, and 2015, which was the year that I started transitioning. So if you're trying to visualize the events of these stories as they're happening, it doesn't actually make sense to imagine them happening to me. You have to kind of visually put a different person there. And to help you with that, I will tell you that during these years, my partner at the time would often tell me that she thought I looked like David Tennant. And a lot of other people, including strangers on the street, told me that I looked like Andrew Hansen from The Chaser. So many people said that. It was pretty funny then. It's very funny to me now. Like, to this day, I will occasionally tweet an old photo of Andrew Hansen and a current photo of myself and just caption it like, "It's been a journey." Go to parties on the mainland where nobody knows me and people ask me what do you do? I just vaguely allude to having been involved in a TV satire troupe at some point. That was in the past. The guys were all really understanding. Anyway, if that helps give you a visual on the person that all of the events in these stories are happening to. All right, I'll start. We'll go back to 2009, and what do I say in 2009? I say, get ready, Hobart, because you're about to see something that you've never seen before. A 24-year-old straight guy with a lot of confidence is about to do stand-up comedy for the first time. I was gonna get up there, start doing stand-up, no holds barred, take no prisoners, no topic is off limits for this guy. Gonna get up there on that stage and no one's gonna hold me back. Gonna start doing stand-up about my favorite subject. You know what that is? It's queer culture and sexuality and how much I admire it. That was the basis of at least half of my material for the first few years I was doing stand-up. I was absolutely oblivious to why I kept coming back to that. But just the basis of some of my material was just the gays are great and they're doing so well and I'm glad they're thriving. Yeah, like a typical bit that I would do back then is I would say the problem I have with casual homophobia is that Brokeback Mountain is the only queer film they ever refer to. you'd love to go to a pub and just see some like blokes hanging out, and one of them says to the other like, standing a bit too close to me there, mate. It's getting a little bit my beautiful laundrette in here. And I'd like, check out those two lezies up in the back corner. Oh yeah, better than chocolate. Better Than Chocolate was a Canadian lesbian romantic comedy from the 90s. I saw it on SBS once, and I referred to it in my stand-up at the time because I really enjoyed it, and I figured that everyone else must have too. Good times, good times. Anyway, like this was the vibe that I began doing stand-up with around Hobart, and this was still the vibe a few months later when I've been doing it for a while, and raw comedy competition rolled around. And raw comedy, as you know, you do it's for brand new, just starting out comedians. You do like a 5-minute set at a local competition thing. Like if you do well enough, you get to go to Melbourne for the national final at Town Hall. And if you win that, then you go to Edinburgh and perform at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival there. And so I thought, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm feeling great. Entered the Tasmanian heat of the thing, did my set about the hanky code that gay men popularised in the 60s and 70s. I really did. It just had like an introductory bit about just how cool it was that they'd done that, and just like how much I thought it was neat. But then just trying to like suggest additions that they could make to the hanky code, hanky in the left pocket or the right pocket, flagging I would like to dress up like a ghost and chase you around your house. I would like to dress up like Pac-Man and run away. I would like to be covered from head to toe in butter. I would like to be your flatmate leaving a passive-aggressive note on the fridge asking who's been used up all of the butter. That was the set that I brought to the raw comedy state final. Got up there, absolutely killed, and I won. I won the Tasmanian final, and I got to go to Melbourne. And, I was feeling so good. I was so confident. Just the response from the crowd in Hobart has been incredible. And it's I know I've got a strong material here, and all I have to do is get up on that stage in Melbourne and just nail it, remember every single bit, get the timing right, get the wording right. I've got this thing wrapped up. It was going to be the start of my career. And sure enough, go to Melbourne, the whole show plays out. I'm the last of 13 comedians, this sold out crowd, 1,500 people at Melbourne Town Hall. I get up, walk out there with the microphone, and I do the entire set absolutely perfectly to complete silence. Nobody wanted it. And this was not a cold crowd either. The people who were also competing that day, the crowd loved the eventual winner, Luke Heggie. They loved future Daily Show correspondent and Marvel movie star Ronnie Cheng. They loved future Helen Badu on Get Crackin' and Edmonds. They did not know what the fuck to do with Dead Name Escott over here. But I just ignored the lack of response and just kept pushing through it, just did it almost robotically, smiling, getting through it, nailing all the bits, because I knew that for the television broadcast, I needed to look good on the television broadcast that was going to be later on. And sure enough, if you like happen to watch the like video of that show, don't. But if you do, you'll actually hear like a lot of laughs through my set. Those laughs were for an American touring comedian who performed a 20-minute set after we were all done, like specifically just to get laughs that they could record and edit into struggling comedian set system so as not to embarrass us. And the main thing that I remember about him is that he spent quite a bit of his set complaining about the review that his show had had in The Age, where he said, like, did you see that review that Age reviewed my show? And they said my material was homophobic. What, they don't understand irony? Anyway, like, get through his thing, meanwhile, like, the judges conferring while he's doing his set, and one of the judges, there's like a judging panel who gets to decide who wins. One of the judges is Rove McManus, who watched absolutely everyone and, like, was part of the judging as to who would be the winner. And all 13 of us came back out on stage. We, like, lined up horizontally along the back of the stage, and like for like Rove to come out and announce the winner, which was not me. And then a thing happened after that, because like they needed some footage to run like as the credits roll in the TV broadcast. So what happened like after the winner was announced was that we all had to stay lined up along the back of the stage while Rove came along and shook everybody's hands along in the line. And I was really struggling to keep it together. I was so disappointed that like I brought my absolute best material that I thought would kill and it got nothing. I was really like, I was quite upset and disappointed, just like trying not to let it show. And then while Rove is coming along and just like, you know, shake everyone's hands, grinning his hands, like, ah, oh, great, good stuff, nice one. Moving along, and Rove gets to me. He shakes my hand and leans in, just a moment, and looks me right in the eye and says, "Keep doing what you're doing." And then just like, step back, moves along, "Keep doing what you're doing," he said. And like, I was gonna. Thanks, but I was gonna. So I go back to Hobart, keep doing what I was doing, which I was already going to do. A few years pass, I keep gigging, a few rooms open up around Hobart, like a few comedy rooms open up around Hobart, the kind of rooms that are like booking interstate and occasionally international headliners to come down and do like a headline spot. Get a few local comedians to do short sets to like to start out with, and then the big interstate person opens up, and like I get to meet quite a lot of like big name comedians this way, and impressed a few of them as well, and it worked out pretty well. And after a few years, this kind of culminated in getting to open for Hannah Gadsby. This was in like 2013 at a Clubhouse Comedy at the Waratah. I got to open for Hannah Gadsby, and just to like, just some kind of useful context for this. This was 2013. At this point, Hannah Gadsby had been on TV a few times, like had a really successful run of comedy festival shows, but this was like before she wrote and recorded the Briley hose and handling jingle, and it took off massively, and she became an international superstar off it. That hadn't happened yet. This was like before that. Can I stop for a second? That was such a weird time in like comedy scenes here when Hannah Gadsby got huge off the Briley hose and handling jingle, wasn't it? Who saw that coming? Like, she'd been doing jingles for ages. She did like the Brumby Brothers Hardware, That's My Habitat. And you're just like, yeah, keep it up. But like, yeah, like Briley hose and handling, that was the one that like just stratospheric like success. And that was going to be the last one that she did as well. It was the amazing thing. Like, you can kind of tell there's like this air of finality about it, but like, then it took off, and like now she gets to go to the US and do Taco Bell jingles, and like, good on her, more power to her. But yeah, the reason that I mentioned that like she was sort of at this point famous but not mega famous, and more to the point, I guess like her standing at that point was that she was like Australia's main lesbian comedian, and as such, the crowd that she pulled to this show, going by haircuts, which I know aren't everything, seemed to be like 80% lesbians, and they loved me, which felt important for reasons that I couldn't quite figure out. They just have the best opinions. What can I say? Yeah. As for why they especially enjoyed my stuff, like more than even most crowds did at that time, like I can only speculate. I will say though, remember earlier tonight when I did the bit about undressing in front of the washing machine? And remember how the punchline for that bit like ended on the words heteronormative paradigm, meant completely sincerely? That was one of the bits I wrote when I thought I was straight. Just incredible broadcasting of something there. But yeah, they loved it. And even better than that, Hannah loved my set as well. She was like really excited about it. She thought I was great. It was a huge, huge moment for me, huge honor. She got up and did her headline set. It was amazing. It was a great night. And then she and I and a bunch of other local like Hobart comedy people, we all went out to the beer garden after the show and just like stand around and hang out and chat. And Hannah was quite drunk, and she was delightful. She was having a great time. We all were. And just standing around and chatting, and after about an hour, we just all been talking, all this like group conversation kind of thing. I notice that Hannah is observing me. Just really taking my whole deal in somehow. And I turn to face her, and she says to me, "I'm so sorry, but I have to ask you something, and it's a terrible question, and I'm so sorry." And I'm very alert at this point, because somehow Hannah Gadsby is about to be the latest in a long line of people to try and guess how many jelly beans are in the jar. so to speak. And I say like, oh, sure, what do you want to know? And she kind of just stops and just like really, really straining and reaching to find the words, just like reaching not only through the drinks that she's had, but through just the inadequacy of language for what it is that I'm broadcasting about myself. And she just thinks about it and says, do you even wank? Can anyone relate to this? I don't know, like, have you ever just like pushed down and repressed even the most benign and harmless edges of your own sexuality to such an extent that Hannah Gadsby notices and gets concerned? Fellas? A few years later, I asked her about this at a party, and I ran into her at a party and I asked her about this. She couldn't remember why she'd said this, but here's my theory, I guess, as to what she was picking up on about me. Like, you know, okay, through my teens, through my 20s, you know, I had crushes, and I had big romantic feelings, and I had desires, and I also fully believed that if anyone knew this very basic human fact about me, they would be disgusted. This is fully what I believed about myself, that like if anybody ever had to think of me and think of sex at the same time, they would never speak to me again. And what this was, obviously in hindsight, was gender dysphoria. Because like, I didn't know how to identify that at the time. It just like, all it was just this big, constant error message right in the middle of the screen about who I was and how I was seen by other people that I just couldn't make sense of, and all I could think of was just like, oh, I'm just some kind of monster, and I couldn't make sense of it at all. And so like, and still like, even so, through my 20s, I actually still had like a pretty good and healthy sex life. Like occasionally, you know, like someone would actually make it clear enough to me that they were interested in me and attracted to me, and once I was like completely certain about that, I could just completely relax around that person and have a good time, and that was great. But outside of those relationships, or those like outside of those bedrooms, I did like effectively just like present myself as basically sexless. And I think that's what Hannah was kind of picking up on in that moment. And it's also what I think Lawrence Mooney was picking up on when he called me to my face, and I quote, basically sexless, when I opened for him in 2011. Like, I'm basically sexless. It's less funny coming from him, as most things are. Lawrence Mooney quite recently, by the way, on his breakfast radio show, said some pretty appalling things. I don't know if you've heard about that. Like he just kind of like repeated the discredited theory that like COVID was sort of came out of something like it was like leaked from a Chinese lab, and said some shit about like thinking about how like we should like drop some kind of weapon on China as retribution for what they've done to us. Like that's what Lawrence Mooney said on his breakfast radio show. and his sofa seemingly like faced no, like nothing, no consequences for that, and it's like quite upsetting that he's used his platform to say things like that. And it's also quite upsetting for me as well, because that point in the show where I imply that Lawrence Mooney isn't very funny, that was supposed to be quite daring of me to go after him. It was supposed to be just like, you know, me just like having this really, really vulnerable moment and then doing a total pivot and just being like a disrespectful little stinker. And like, now it's just like he's just made himself a really easy target, and doesn't, it's just thrown off the whole rhythm of the thing. But yeah, could I say, by the way, about the Hannah Gadsby thing, by the way, I would actually really appreciate it if you didn't try to tell that story to other people, because there is a mountain of context behind it, and you're gonna get some of it wrong, and it's gonna like reflect badly on both of us in some kind of way. So like, you know, I don't want you to be a bit, you know, talking to like other people and just being like, oh, I heard this story about Hannah Gadsby being really crass and inappropriate. Like, no, it was just that kind of night where everyone was talking like that. It was very funny to me at the time. It was very funny to me now. Or, you know, being just like, oh, I heard this story that some comedian was telling about like going on some masturbation habits themed quiz show that Geraldine Hickey was hosting. No, you've made several mistakes on that one. Another thing that happened around about this time as well, like, you know, along with my comedy career, I've also, for a good few years, been a singer in a band. In a band with Native Cats, been going for a few years. It's like a duo that I started in 2007 with a friend of mine. To name him would take too long. Anyway. Moving along. 2013 as well, we had a tour coming up with like a national tour. We just put out an album and we were going to go on tour. And I was like looking ahead to the tour, like our flight to Adelaide, the first stop of the tour, was in a few days. And I was just like sitting around and thinking about it, it's like what songs we were going to play, like what I was going to wear, what I needed to pack. And I just thought, I should wear a dress. Like, for the tour, I should wear a dress. It's like, what this band needs is I should wear a dress. Just the thought just kind of like came out of nowhere like that. And so I thought, it was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. So I went down to the Maya basement. I don't know if it's still there, but it's like the Maya basement where all like the Dangerfields and the Princess Highways and all that kind of stuff. Just like went down there to have a look around and just like buy a dress for myself. And the way that I approached this task of like shopping for a dress in person, and this was genuinely my thought process going into it, is like, I need to act like this is a completely normal thing for me to be doing, because being all nervous and awkward about it seems cliched and played out. That's like the quickest, easiest way to get me to be cool with absolutely anything, is just like show me a montage of sitcom characters being sweaty idiots about it. And I'm just like, fuck that, I'm just gonna be like, normal stuff. So I did. Got a dress, just like a cool, just like a tartan print stuck around the neck. Wore it in took it with me. So I got changed into it in the hotel room before the show, and I didn't know how anybody was gonna react. And I walked into the venue just not sure how I was gonna get looks, I was gonna get comments, and it was actually just kind of nothing. It was just kind of chill. There was one woman there who I had a chat with. She was oh, nice. We just talked about clothes a little bit, and it was just really, really nice. It was no weird comments, no invasive questions. It was just all good. And I just started buying more dresses that I liked, and just cute floral print kind of stuff, and everything just felt right. And it went on like this at every Native Cats show for quite a while. And then it's been going on for just months, a year, and then I started to feel when is somebody going to ask me some invasive questions about this? Because this is just getting I don't understand this, and I actually want to have some conversations about it. I don't understand what's happening, and then just nobody else does either. And even worse is that men at these shows, they would say things to me, but the things they would say would be just hey mate, love the frock. No, stop trying to make this normal. It's so cool that you can just wear that and just not give a shit. I've never given more of a shit about anything in my life. So cool that you can just get up on stage and wear a dress like that and just show that you're really just really secure in your masculinity. My fucking what? There was an ad that I saw on TV around about then for this heavy duty air mattress, and the way that they would advertise this air mattress is they pumped it up outside and then they had a guy drive a quad bike over it to show how sturdy it was. And in this analogy, the air mattress is my so-called masculinity, and the quad bike is each one in a succession of dresses I keep buying and wearing in public. And everybody thinks I'm doing this to show off how sturdy the air mattress is, when actually I'm just driving it over and over and over and over and over, just waiting for this thing to fucking burst. And eventually it was I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting any closer to really understanding myself by doing this. I'm going to have to try and have some conversations with people. And I didn't have any sort of friend, anyone close to me that I felt that I could talk to about this, and so I reached out to just whatever sort of trans women I could find on the internet who seemed open to having conversations and answering questions and listening to me sort of process things and so on. And it was makes sense. I would just go online and just be hey, you're trans, maybe you can help me figure out what I am, which definitely isn't that. And you'll never believe what they all told me. And told me I definitely was, and I needed to sort my shit out in order to actually be happy, which was not the answer that I wanted, because that seemed like a lot of work. And yeah, it's confronting to to have like a lot of people who really don't know me at all, like, claim to know more about my gender than I do, and to actually be right. That was a really strange and kind of humbling time. Like, quite humbling to like have people like know what was going on with me that instantly and that well, and for some of those people to also be teenagers, and for some of those teenagers to also be Stalinists. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, just like that part of the left-wing internet, but like, it was just like a lot to be having these conversations with these people that just like, I'm 19 years old and I know two things are true. You need to start living as a woman, and Joseph Stalin did nothing wrong. And here I am, I guess. Like, you know, that was a few years ago, and I've been really happy since then. You know, it's like not to like go on and get all sappy about my true, authentic self or whatever, but like, I live a really good life now, and I'm really grateful just like to not have that just like constant flashing error message in front of me anymore. Just like to just feel completely right about who I am and the way that I live in my life and the way that I'm related to and the way that I'm seen by people. And I'm really grateful to have been able to do that. I still haven't really looked into how the Stalinist regime turned out for everybody. Because you can see how I'm a bit worried. Like, if it turned out that those teenagers were wrong about that. Thank you very much. That's the show. My name is Chloe Allison Escott. Thank you so much for... That's the first time I've talked about almost any of that ever, and thank you so much. Thank you.